Hello and welcome to Sideways. This week we're wondering about identity and the difficulty we can sometimes experience when trying to work out exactly who we are and why it's almost certainly different from who we were yesterday. I Google my own name in order to find out who the internet thinks I am. There's a tale about being chased by a furious cow. Martin's dad falls into a river and Martin manages to cadge himself some new wheels. Searching for identity. Hello.
Good morning to you.
We're both wearing white t-shirts.
Yeah. Has yours got
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got the Sideways t-shirts on. well, that was an uncoordinated
eventuality.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I've got my Sideways t-shirt on, and I've got my Sideways background behind me. I'm flipping branding like nobody's business this morning.
Yeah. Trouble is, people can't see our shirts, can they?
Well, no. Unless we sort of sit very much upright in our chairs.
Yeah, I don't.
The entire. You could stand up at intervals.
I could do, yeah.
It'd be like subliminal messaging, wouldn't it?
We'll do that then, shall we?
Yeah.
See how we get on. It might be a bit disruptive.
I was just Googling my own name. When was the last time you did that?
Googling?
Your name. Do you ever do that?
No.
Oh, it's good fun. See what comes up if you Google your own name.
You Googled yours or mine?
No, I wouldn't bother Googling yours, would I?
Well, I was going to say, it's a bit of a weird thing to do.
I'm not interested in where you appear on the internet. No, I was Googling my own name. It used to be that if I Googled my own name, a lot of references to my old corporate life came up.
Oh, did it?
And I haven't done it for years, and I was just doing it waiting for you there, and I noticed that absolutely nothing about my previous corporate life comes up anymore, so it's as if it never existed.
Oh, that's sort of significant in many ways then, isn't it?
I think it is, really. Yeah. It's mostly, rather than corporate heft, it's mostly my inane witterings now.
I know. Yeah. Well, I think other people can decide which one's worse, can't they?
They could, yeah. I don't think I'll dive too deeply into that.
Don't think about it. Yeah, no, exactly.
It's already gone out of my head.
Yeah, well, good, because the last thing you really want to do, especially it could beg the question, who am I? Or that question which often comes up in groups, which is sort of intro to what I want to talk about here, which is I really don't know who I am.
Oh,
right.
This is the first time for a long time that you haven't given me any heads up about what you want to talk about.
No, I didn't realise I hadn't done that until this. Well, I haven't given you any prior warning as to what I was going to talk about.
I was thinking about that while I was having a wee this morning, and I thought, shall I message him and say, you haven't told me what you want to talk about today? Then I thought, no, I won't. I'll treat it as if I was seeing a new client and they come in and they say, this is what I want to talk about, and I have to wing it.
You have to think on the hoof. Well, it was something that it's the way we always used to do it, didn't we, for quite some time?
Yeah.
So it would be exactly that. It'd be fresh. I thought it would get you out of your comfort zone a little bit, which we know it's where the growth happens, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. Good. Okay. Good.
And we did an episode back in April last year about our search for an identity.
Is that what we called it?
No, because it was. That's what my notes were headed up, which you called it before it went onto Buzzsprout. You called it "Who Am I?" Which probably suits this episode better than it did the last one.
Okay,
but I'll explain further as we go on that.
Excellent. Okay.
All right. So it's not a search for an identity. It's more as if you've lost it. Or if you've got to that point, you do beg that question. I really don't know who I am.
Okay.
But before we start, there's just a little story I wanted to read out. This was another escaped cow story, which I know.
Where are you finding all these animal stories?
Well, this one was from. This is a local one, so it was on that Facebook group that I belong to. It's called. It's quite a long name: Historic Crimes and Strange Events.
Right.
Happening around Maidstone.
Okay.
So this one, it's more personal. This one because it's very local.
Right.
And it comes from the local news on this day. So we haven't got to on this day yet, but it's on this day. But it was actually the 14th of May, so we're a little bit out.
Okay.
So it's 14th of May, 1850. So it's 170 odd years ago now. So there's a sort of language I like that they use as well, which makes a story, it embellishes a story a little bit.
Yeah.
But it seems like you think, I'm not sure if this is true or not. It seems a little bit embellished. But anyway, on Thursday, the 9th of May, a furious cow. So it's a furious cow. I don't know how that is furious. A furious cow broke away from Chatham and ran towards Maidstone. So you can imagine him piling down Bluebell Hill, can't you? There wouldn't have been many cars around 1850. It was not
Past Toys R Us.
Past Toys R Us, yeah. Came down there past the Shell garage. It was not known if the cow did any mischief on the road before it reached Sandling, which is where I'm right on the borders of Sandling here, so it's very low.
I wonder what it meant by mischief.
Yeah, it did. Well, it didn't know what was happening between there. There's no reports, I assume.
Right, okay.
And when it reached Sandling, it encountered a Mr. T. Franklin, his little boy, and a friend, Mr. Kingsnorth, who were walking. Mr. Franklin had barely time to throw the child over the hedge, so you can imagine that guy. And with his friend leap over himself in time to escape the cow, which tried to get over the hedge after them, but unsuccessfully, and then ran towards the turnpike gate, which was closed by Mr. Nye, the gatekeeper.
Well done, Mr. Nye. Quick thinking.
He was on the spot, wasn't he?
He was right. He's bang on it, wasn't he?
It repeatedly tried to jump the gate. I mean, I've not seen cows do that, but anyway, and would have repeatedly tried to jump the gate and would have got over the small gate had it not been that Mr. Nye beat it over the head with a stick. Now, that's a nasty turn. No, no one likes to hear that, do they?
I'm not keen on that.
Not keen on that.
As a cow, it doesn't sound much like a cow.
Doesn't sound like a cow, does it? Really? And
it sounds like a cow jumping.
No, you don't. You don't. It sounds less like a cow in a minute. But anyway, he's beaten him over the head with a stick. It then turned back and seeing a man at work in the meadow. I don't know how they got into the mind of the cow here as to what he thought. He leapt over the hedge and charged him. So again, he's leapt over a hedge there. Something weird.
He's a furious cow, isn't he?
He's livid, the lad, isn't he? Anyway, it leapt over the hedge and charged this chap. The man threw his hat down, which drew its attention off from him, whilst he managed to escape into a neighbouring wood. A man employed by Mr. Levy at Chatham went into the field and found it laying down. It arose and charged him so suddenly that he had a very narrow escape with his life, which he effected by seizing the cow by each horn and struggling with it till he could release himself. His clothes were torn and himself considerably injured by one of the horns, striking him in the lower part of the body, which sounds a bit painful, doesn't it? The cow was ultimately secured and driven to Chatham. Now, that for
a start, it sounds like a bull.
It does sound like a bull, doesn't it, really? Yeah.
Yeah. I've never seen a bull trying to jump a hedge.
No.
I wonder what upset the bull to that extent.
He was furious.
He was absolutely furious.
Probably being in Chatham doesn't help, does it?
Well, I did consider saying that, but I didn't want to upset any listeners we've got in Chatham.
Any of our listeners from the Medway towns, yeah.
I can't imagine what could have happened to that cow. I mean, maybe there was insufficient pasture. Is that possible?
I don't know. In 1850, it was all pasture around here, really, wasn't it?
You'd have thought so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But the woods that it escaped, or the man escaped into the woods, I imagine they're the woods opposite you.
Yeah, they are, probably well. It's got to be Cuckoo Woods, isn't it? Where you walk your doggies.
Yeah, do you reckon he's still there?
You better have a look. If you see a furious cow, let me know, report back.
Sheltering down by the stream.
Anyway, he got home in the end. He was just fine.
I hope he wasn't chastised. It's not nice to hear him hit over the head, and I hope he calmed down. Well, I bet the traffic wasn't as bad.
It was easier to get up and down Bluebell Hill, yeah. They didn't have the roundabout at the Running Horse there, which is an absolute pest to get through.
When you were out with your girls when they were young, did you ever consider throwing them over a hedge?
Last thing I wanted.
Danger?
No, I didn't. Would you?
No, I wouldn't have. I can't imagine any scenario in which I'd have thrown them over a hedge.
Oh, I can't.
I may conceivably have jumped over a hedge with them, but I don't think I'd have thrown them. I mean, you don't know what's on the other side of the hedge, do you?
No, you jump with them when you keep them in your arms.
Yeah, it could be a ditch, couldn't it? Or a hawthorn bush.
Yeah, or another furious cow the other side of the hedge. You don't know.
Or a number of furious cows.
Out of the frying pan into the fire. It could be a whole herd of furious cows.
Or some, particularly tempestuous sheep. I don't know.
I do not know. And that's the unknown.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, well, I think we've probably stretched that one far enough now, don't you?
Probably, yeah.
We've dissected it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's quite interesting about you saying that you Googled yourself this morning, because apparently the question, who am I, is one of the most common questions typed into Google.
Really? I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I've never typed. I must admit, that's not a question I've ever typed into Google.
No, well, I hadn't until
How's Google going to know that?
Well, exactly that. If you ask, I tried to ask Alexa as well, and it just told me my name. So it wasn't very forthcoming.
Maybe it thought you had early onset dementia.
Something
Although, of course,
going
it wouldn't be early onset now, would it?
Well, hey, just dementia.
Just dementia.
Anyway, there's 3 points that came up when I typed that in. Psychologytoday.com came up, one of our old friends that
of course it did, yeah.
Often have a look at.
Yeah.
And there's 3 key points that come up.
Okay.
When you're looking at this. The first key point was asking who am I implies that a person can only be one thing, a fixed thing, a belief which can only cause more anxiety.
Yeah.
That's one of the key points.
Yeah.
We'll explore a bit more in a moment. The second one was a better question to ask instead of who am I should be how would I like to engage life, or potentially who would I like to be.
Yeah.
And then there was the third point was believing that one has complete self-knowledge and not knowing oneself at all are both states of limited growth. So they're at both ends of they're both extremes of the identity continuum, and I'll come back onto that later. But apparently, people that ask this sort of question and potentially Google it are typically struggling with their identity and are searching for a core sense of themselves. But the irony is that the more you seek to identify who you are, the more fragile you are likely to feel about yourself. Mm-hmm. So it's quite you've got to be quite gentle with yourself, I think, at this point. But again, we come on to that.
How does this, maybe you're going to talk about this.
Yeah.
How does this particular issue, which is a common one in therapy, how does it manifest in recovering addicts?
It manifests itself because, well, you ask that question the minute you go into recovery, really.
Right.
Because
who am I without drink?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because it's a completely changed landscape you're living in, and so you're thrashing around a little bit. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it is one of the. And again, I'll come on to that. But the emphasis shouldn't be on discovering who you are. This is again one of the points they're talking about, expanding a little bit. I.e., what's buried beneath, but on facilitating the emergence of what you'd like to experience. Mm-hmm. Okay, which again is when you go into recovery, it's very much. We try and see it as a bit of a blank canvas at that point.
Yeah,
you're shaking off everything about yourself, really changing yourself. Where drink and drugs have been such an important aspect of your life, without it, there's these massive gaps, and that can be filled with positive identity references.
Well, I think that's one of the things that people struggle with in terms of their sense of identity, and that is the idea that if you ask who am I. It's a perfectly reasonable answer. You can be whoever you want to be.
You can, but again, it's often said in groups with sort of an angst. I really don't know who I am. Mm-hmm. It's something which is quite concerning and anxiety filling.
But when you think about the oh God, I was going to use the word journey there.
Yeah.
When you think about the way you've progressed from the moment you came into recovery to the point you are now, it would be true, wouldn't it, to say that essentially you are a product of the work you've done. So essentially you have created the way you see yourself now. No one else has done it. People have supported you in doing that, but you are the architect of that. And that's true of all of us.
It is, but I think, again, it's an ongoing process, which I think, rather than a static snapshot, we need to embrace ourselves, don't we, as a sort of a flowing sense of self, which is what I do all the time now. It feels like I'm constantly changing, not dramatically anymore. The dramatic changes came in the early part of recovery, but I still see it as ongoing. I see myself perhaps as more of a weeping willow rather than a solid oak in the ground. You know what I mean? I'm flexible with. I can go with the changes that are necessary. And don't
Unless, of course, you've been on holiday somewhere hot in which you look more like a copper beach.
I do. Well, I caught the sun this week, actually. I've just been out in the sun.
You've got to say the word sun and you start to get a tan. It's ridiculous.
I know. I only just went out for a walk, and then I looked in the mirror in the evening, and I sort of got a reddish brown colour, which was strange. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know how you feel with you. I'm sure you went through the same process, didn't you? When you got to that point when you left the corporate world and you're having issues with mental health and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah,
it's there was something you in that quote. I think one of the points that you made from Psychology Today.
Yeah,
that point about feeling as if who we are as a fixed point is actually a source of anxiety.
Yeah,
you know, if you consider how hard it is to be unchanged, you know, if you are this thing and you stay this thing every day, month after month, year after year, I mean, that would take an inordinate amount of work to try and do that. It's actually much easier to change and to be in constant transition than it is to be anything else. So I think that's absolutely spot on. The idea that we are one thing and we stay that thing permanently is A, nonsense, and B, full of angst and stress.
It's part of the reason when you're in active addiction and you feel you are stuck. You don't change at that point. You've given up any rights to change almost. It's almost everything just revolves around the drink, and you identify yourself as being a heavy drinker or drug taker. Well,
that's essentially sorry, go on.
Certainly everyone else does, but that sense of self is just, it's stuck.
Yeah, because your wheels are spinning, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
One of the fundamental requirements we have as human beings is to grow.
Yes.
To feel as if we're in some way moving forward. And if every day you're getting up and drinking and not really, cutting yourself off and keeping yourself isolated or taking drugs or whatever it is you're doing, and that's all that you're doing day after day after day, then you're not growing, are you? And an absence of growth is going to make you feel anxious and stressed and unhappy.
It goes hand in hand with the actual substance itself. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. But I think, when I've certainly found in recovery, and I think most people do, they do start to move on at that point. And there's a sense of reorganizing and reconsidering ourselves, rethinking it, reframing probably, which comes in. We've talked about that recently. So reframing yourself. Mm-hmm. But I think it's when you ask that question, who am I? And certainly I think I probably went through the same process. I felt there's a real sense of inadequacy about yourself. When you're feeling down or unfulfilled or stuck in this horrible pit you're in with addiction. And it's you ask yourself that question. Because if you're happy and everything's going fine, you rarely ask that question, do you?
No, you haven't got any need to, have you?
No need at all, no. I was talking about the identity continuum, which I hadn't really thought about before, and the extremes of that. So people that are recently divorced, for example, or tend to lack a sense of self. They don't know who they are as a single person.
Or recently bereaved.
Or coming out of a long prison sentence. We've come across that with people coming into groups after a long prison sentence. They've no idea who they are, really. It's a real struggle at that point.
Did you struggle with your sense of identity when you'd spent a night in the cells after stealing a digger? Or a lorry or whatever it was.
I didn't steal a digger, or I didn't steal anything particularly.
Well, you got in the cab, didn't you?
I did, but I was still drunk the next morning, so no, I hadn't really. There's no. I knew exactly what I was then, a convict. I was banged up.
Oh dear.
So anyway, again, yes, that's a good point. It's. I suppose that I was changing at that point, but changing for the worse. I was drifting towards this horrible void that I was inevitably going to, not inevitably, but I was going to end up in. But I think we talked about fear as well in the past. I think we've got to, when we're doing this sort of research into ourselves effectively or looking back, and we've got to put that fear aside, haven't we, and take the chance to build the best possible version of themselves. We've got to set the script. We've got a chance. Which is why it's so important in recovery. We've got this chance to we've hit the restart button in many ways, and we know picking up a drink will take us straight back again. And we'll have to. And when you constantly have to set the reset button, it can be a bit of a grind. But so you've got to embrace it, quickly. Really.
Tell me if this is right or not. it strikes me that in recovery, part of what will create difficulty for people in terms of their sense of self is that in order to have a solid sense of your own identity, you also have to accept the bits that you're not fond of.
Yes, you do. Yes.
So you can't say, well, I'm going to jettison everything I don't like about myself or that feels a bit distasteful and I'm just going to be the good bits. You know, to embrace yourself, to love yourself, to care about yourself means taking everything, you know, not jettisoning the parts that you find it difficult to tolerate. I think that's one of the reasons that people find it difficult. And I imagine one of the reasons that people would find recovery quite difficult in the early stages.
No, that's right. They call that positive disintegration, which I came across again in the research, where you will keep those parts of your personality that's suiting you well, and then get rid of those old habits and the bits which are constraining you.
Well, that's essentially what you're doing in recovery. You're dismantling yourself and then rebuilding.
You are, exactly that. Yeah, it's a bit like going into the army where they break you down and then rebuild you into the person that they want you to be. Where was I? I was jumping about my notes a little bit here.
Am I throwing you off?
A little bit, but which is like you, which is going back to what you always used to do. Perhaps it's not such a good idea giving you a free rein. You mess up my thought process.
It's good for you.
Yeah, it is good for me. I'm going to go back then to just this identity continuum.
Right.
Where we've got people who know nothing about themselves.
Yeah.
Coming out of prison and divorce and bereavement, etc.
Or people who only identify themselves through what other people think of them, which is something we've also spoken about recently.
Yes, we have. Yes. Codependency. Yeah, but and that comes up. That's on the scale. But at the other end of this identity continuum are those people that claim to know everything about themselves. You know, we've probably know people have used the phrase or heard the phrase from them. You know, I know myself so well. I know it's and that can be constraining as well. That can limit growth. And because if you know yourself so well, and that's the opinion you've got, there's no more evolution to be happening at that point. And again, the research suggests that if you come across people that say that or honestly believe that, it suggests a deep vulnerability that's been defending against, as if it was too dangerous to take a closer look as well. So it can be a defense mechanism. And I think, again, when I was doing the research and thinking about it, I think perhaps us addicts do that, especially when we're in the madness. We are at that point where it's too dangerous to look inside ourselves because it's horrible stuff we're going to find until we get stuck.
Yeah, I suppose when you're right in the midst of it, you might feel as if you know yourself, but what you know about yourself, you definitely don't like.
No, that's it. Yeah, everything there is horrible.
And of course, that then creates a situation whereby your fear of looking at yourself stops you from seeing the redeeming parts of you that might help you in your early and sustained recovery. So it becomes a kind of self-perpetuating cycle of misery.
It is, and you're right. It's and because at that point where the only identity you have is as an addict, you play the role. So how do we change our position on that, which is the bit that I wanted to look at really? And again, the first point that came up there was to engage your sense of self as malleable. And we talked about, I talked earlier on about the willow tree and the solid oak. I think that's quite a good point. It's a good analogy. And the goal here is to assess your potential, keeping the parts of identity that continue to serve as well, as we've already touched on, and shedding the old habitual pieces that constrain us.
Yeah, yes, you're right. The precursor to that is you have to believe that change is possible and that you are responsible for it.
Yes.
One of the ways in which we prevent ourselves from doing that is by being in a position of victim.
Yeah.
If you feel, which we know also is very common in addiction.
Yes.
So if you feel you're a victim, your ability to change yourself and see yourself as something different is constrained by you believing that everyone else is to blame or other people are to blame and that someone else has got to haul you out. So you're not going to be able to change your belief about yourself unless you believe that you have the power to do so.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's almost like you enter into a commitment with yourself, really. With the relationship you have with yourself, you enter a commitment for evolution. And I think that's what I found was the easiest way for me going forward. When I came into recovery, I was committed to making sure that I was going to come out of this a different person, committed to ironing out those bits of me that I didn't like, and try to find this difficult position of liking myself again.
Once the fact that you'd got there, the fact that you felt like that means that you had acknowledged and accepted that it was possible to do so, because otherwise that couldn't have been your objective, could it?
No, and I think it's, again, you listen to what people have been saying in groups, and listen to what they've done, and the way they felt that they've changed, I think, is important as well, because the stereotypical view of an alcoholic is exactly that, of the person that is going to be constant drinking, a dishevelled lifestyle, and that's what we buy into, and that's what we see ourselves as. So moving away from that can be quite tricky. And if you when you first go into recovery, no, you don't think it's possible. It's only a process of time and putting the work in. You suddenly realise that it is. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, I wouldn't even say suddenly. It's an ongoing process. So it is that evolution, which I think buying into that helps us to discover who we are. But we've got to understand that who we are is a changing landscape. There's a couple of quotes here which I think sort of round things up. Who am I is the only question worth asking and the only one never answered, which I think, again, it sort of illustrates that constantly changing position that we're in. Mm-hmm. So you can ask it, but you've got to keep asking it, because it's going to be a different answer each time as time goes by.
Yeah.
And the second one was, I'm the architect of my identity. I build my own foundation and I choose my own bricks. So going back to that point, it's us, isn't it, that has the ability. And if you put that alongside the willpower to do so, we can make positive changes.
I mean, it's also something else that we've often covered in one way or another, which is being willing to take the responsibility.
Yes.
Because taking responsibility for yourself and changing the things that you want to change about yourself, whilst accepting the things that might be unchangeable about you, you know, that might be just parts of you, takes courage.
Yeah, it does.
Particularly if you've surrendered yourself to drink or drugs for any length of time. Because that's one of the other difficulties people have with their identity is when you've been through a very traumatic period of life like that, a long period in addiction, for example, you might hanker after getting back to who you were before addiction, but most people probably can't remember who that was. And anyway, you'd never be able to get back there.
No, you wouldn't, because in many cases it's 10, 20, 30 years back down the line.
You can't go back anyway. You know, we can never be an earlier version of ourselves.
No.
It's like who said you can never put your foot in the same river twice. It's the same thing.
I hadn't heard that phrase, but yeah, no, you're exactly right. Although thinking about it, my dad fell in the same river twice. When he had his boat down on the River Medway, he fell off twice, which was, he did, which is, to us children, we weren't children, we were grown up by that time, but myself and my elder brother were on there on the first occasion. It was hilarious.
How did he fall in? Did he get his foot caught in a rope or something?
No, it was in a lock. It was in a lock.
Oh, so quite deep then.
It was, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. He was just walking, because you have to walk around the edge of the boat, then jump off and get the gate key or whatever, get the lock key and move it about. And he was just walking around the edge of the boat and suddenly lost his footing and bang. But it was funny because he said, "Oh, I'm in," as he was flying down towards the water. As if so you have a nice, you give him a long old boat hook for him to grab onto. You drag him around to the back of the boat and off he came.
Did he say, "Oh, I'm in" the second time? Or?
Well, I wasn't there the second time. Apparently, there was a bit of I think my mum just heard this splash and just saw his head bobbing about.
Oh, I feel sad for all of the listeners who don't know your dad, because knowing him just makes that 10 times.
Does yeah. But anyway, that's the same river twice. But I understand the analogy there, because the water's constantly flowing. So I was being a little bit glib, but it just reminded me of that. So I thought I'd throw that in. After I get the chance to talk about my dad, so it's quite nice.
Oh, that's great, because I'm not sure that's a story I've ever heard.
Yeah, well, we constantly dig them up. There's probably still more to come.
Oh, dear. Okay,
so that's me sort of come to the end of what I wanted to talk about, really. It's reasonably short, but I thought it was a nice expansion of what we talked about before. And because it came up again recently in groups, where someone asked that exact question. I really don't know who I am, or use that statement.
How was it answered?
Well, I don't think there was anything. There was no answer at that point. It was just an exclamation, if you like. It wasn't. It was only when I thought, God, I don't think anyone can answer that really until I wouldn't have been out. I could now. I've.
What would you say now?
I would say, well, don't think of yourself as a static person. See yourself as malleable, and you can really build into what you want to be rather than searching for who you are at the moment.
Yeah.
So that's really it. Unless there's anything else you wanted to add in at this point, we can crack on with our gratitude lists.
Right. Who's going first?
Well, I went first last time, I think.
Right. I've got new towels on
Oh, yeah. Okay. I can see that.
I realised that a number of the towels in the house were, well, the best way I can describe them is sort of cardboardy.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought to myself, why am I tolerating cardboardy towels? And so I thought, I'm buying some new towels. That's
Get
it.
some new ones.
Got some nice fluffy cotton towels, and my goodness, what a difference it makes.
It's a joy to get out of the shower, isn't it? And to start drying yourself. Yeah.
Talking of getting out of the shower, though, I thought this was something that only I did, but talking about it to my family, I realised that everybody else does it as well. So it'd be interesting to see if you do.
Okay.
When you finished in the shower and you turn the shower off, particularly not so much in the summer, but in the winter when it's a bit chilly, do you stay in the shower while you dry off?
Yeah.
You see, I used to just get straight out and be really cold and sort of get out of all that steam. Then I thought, why don't I stay in the shower and dry off? And then I started doing that. I only started doing that in my 50s.
Did you?
So I feel a bit sore about all those decades that I've been chilly getting out of the shower. Why didn't someone tell me?
No, I think, I get out just to do the last bit because there's a towel you stand onto, obviously, isn't there?
Or a bath mat.
Or a bath mat, and then I dry my feet then. The rest of it I do whilst I'm in the water.
Why didn't someone tell me? Why are we not told these things? Why is this not taught in schools?
It should be one of the first lessons, shouldn't it? Really, how to shower properly.
Well, I would have thought so. I mean, I've had probably hours of discomfort because nobody ever clued me up about that. For God's sake, it's a disgrace. What else aren't you telling me?
It's not that, but it's just a great illustration. It's a shift. It's a changing landscape we're living in, and you've grown a little bit, haven't you, since you've learned that?
I've grown. I now see myself as someone who dries off in the shower rather than outside the shower like a numpty.
You've evolved. That's it.
Yeah. All right.
Good on you. Well, it's quite easy for me this week, actually, my gratitude list. Because I'm talking about an extreme act of kindness and generosity, really, which was afforded on me. It was, you probably remember, it was about 2 or 3 years, probably 3 years ago, I had my bike nicked. Do you remember? And I've been without a bike. It's not funny. What are you laughing for?
The reason I'm laughing. Well, no, you go on. You tell me your story, and then I'll tell you why I laughed. Okay.
Well, I had my bike nicked 2 or 3 years ago, and I'd gone round to a guy I know from groups. I've been round to his house because I took my VR headset round. He was thinking about buying a VR headset, so I wanted to go. And he had a bike sitting in his conservatory. I said, if you're ever thinking of selling that, let me know. Because he'd never used it. His back is not up to using it anymore. And then the other day he said, I'll tell you what, if you want to come round and pick it up, you can take my bike. You can have it free.
Wow.
And I said, well, no, I can't do that. He said, no, honestly, do that. So it was just, so I went round to pick it up on Thursday, I think it was. Yeah. Friday. Went to pick it up. And then it was, I come to the agreement. I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll make a contribution to the Aspire charity as a sort of because I felt I couldn't just take it. And then I felt, you get this guilt. If I hadn't have said anything, and then I thought, did he think I was sort of prying to say, can I have that? Sort of thing, when I saw his bike.
You didn't put a Post-it note on it, did you?
Put a sticker on it. This is mine, yeah. If something goes wrong, remember me in your will. And the thing is, it's the same height as me, and it's just the bike set up pretty much how I would want it set up as well. So it's lovely.
No reason to feel guilty, have you? Because, of course, don't forget that when he offered you his bike, your acceptance of his kind gift is also nice for him. We've spoken about this before. When you do something generous for someone, when it comes from your heart and the person accepts it, it feels great.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So had you Had you said, no, I can't do that, then you would have deprived him of that feeling. So you haven't any reason to feel guilty.
No, I suppose it was a natural feeling. I think we talked about it, haven't we? The Christmas present dichotomy and stuff. And I always find it.
That was an
tricky.
opportunity for growth for you then, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And so
in order to really grow, you should have said, thank you for your bike. Can I have your helmet as well?
No, he did offer me that. Honestly, he did. Don't worry about that. But I've already got one. In fact, I've got two. I've got two bike helmets. Because when I moved, I thought I'd lost one, so I bought another one. Then the other one turned up, and then my bike got nicked. So I had two helmets and no bike.
I'll tell you why I laughed so much when you said your bike got nicked.
Right.
It's because on an earlier episode, I can't remember what episode it was, but I was talking about chunking stuff down or actually moving out into the panic zone for stuff,
Okay.
and you have to get stuff back into stretch.
Yeah.
I said, and the example I gave was, imagine I said to you, why don't you come and cycle around the world with me? And you said to me, well, I wouldn't be able to do that anyway because my bike got nicked.
So, yeah. Okay. So it threw you back.
It's one of my favourite moments in recent history.
Well, I'm hoping now that we've got CCTV up around here that there's less likelihood that the bike shed will be rummaged through again.
Yeah, I hope your bike doesn't get nicked again.
Right, days of the year.
Yeah.
There was loads on there, so I just had to pick a couple out. And one of the first one was World Meditation Day.
You want to do an episode on meditation, don't you?
I do want to do, and I know when we sort of briefly messaged each other about that, he said we probably need someone on to do it. But I was thinking about just talking about the benefits of meditation rather than how to do it. Eat more fruit and veg day today.
Totally, I'm all over that, mate.
Yeah.
The only problem with that is I'm not sure I could. I already eat loads of fruit and veg.
Yes, and I think that thinking you've got to have a day to do that is probably indicative of perhaps their poor lifestyle choices by society.
I don't think that's going to cut it either, is it? If you've got a poor diet, having a day where you eat more fruit and veg, don't think the weight's suddenly going to drop off you and your blood sugar levels are going to restabilise because they're not going to.
No, they're not. No, well, the third one was Talk Like Yoda Day. Now, I don't know what that is because I've never watched Star Wars.
Oh, well, isn't he...
Doesn't he put the senses round the wrong way sort of thing?
He does. And I don't remember him from Star Wars particularly, but I do remember Will in The In-Betweeners doing an impression of him.
I do, yeah. It's a feisty one you are or something, wasn't it? He said.
Feisty one you are.
That's it. So you've got to talk like Yoda Day today.
All right.
So, but I can't do it because I don't know the voice. But it sounds like you've got it off pat. So, Phil,
yeah. Well, I'm probably not going to do that again today.
No.
But I have spoken like Yoda today, so I fulfilled.
That's it.
My obligation.
Your duty's done.
Yeah.
Okay. On this day in music.
Yep.
Well, it's Leo Sayers' birthday today.
Oh, he's a one-man band.
The one-man band. How old do you reckon he is?
76.
Oh, 75.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
That is pretty impressive. 1948 he was born. So, 1988. There was a number one, Wet, 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 with Billy Bragg. I had to get him in there because when I saw that, I thought Billy Bragg has got to be.
I don't remember them having a number one together.
I didn't. No, this is 1988. They did a version of With a Little Help from My Friends and She's Leaving Home by the old Beatles thing. They were raising money for Childline. Yeah.
But I can't stand Wet, Wet, Wet for that abomination they did of.
I feel it in my fingers.
Oh my God, that is honestly.
Just went
I
on
want to smash stuff up whenever I hear that.
It was number one for so many weeks, wasn't it?
Horrendous.
But I mentioned that because it was Billy Bragg, you see, and we've talked about him quite a lot recently, haven't we?
You said you wanted him to be president and you wanted him to shit on you.
That's it, yeah. No, so he's my hero. He had I didn't even realise he'd had a number one. So when I found out, I thought, yes, get in there. And apparently that particular single was number one for about 5 or 6 weeks. But it raised £600,000 for Childline, so that's good because Billy Bragg, being a proper socialist,
He's a good lad, isn't he?
He is a good lad. So all the money went to charity.
Yeah.
And the only other point was in 1980, Joe Strummer, Joe Strummer from The Clash, he was arrested in Germany after smashing his guitar over the head of a member of the audience. I mean, that's not how you're not how you treat.
Wow.
Did you do that? I can't
remember doing that. And I mean, not only would I not have done that to a member of the audience if I could find one, but I didn't have enough money to keep buying guitars.
No, a strummer liked smashing a guitar or two, didn't he? It's part of his act.
It's wrong to smash a guitar. Why just give it to someone who hasn't got one?
Yeah, obviously he got upset with some in the audience, but you don't see Cliff Richard doing that, do you? He wouldn't get involved in such shenanigans, would he?
No, but you do see Rod Stewart kicking footballs into the crowd, don't you? and dislocating people's fingers or thumbs.
But at the end of this little clip, the sentence, or this little extract, I should say, from the website I was looking at, it said that after he was arrested, so Joe Strummer was arrested for that, like an assault charge, but he was released after alcohol tests proved negative. Oh. I thought, how does that work? If he was a pissed, he'd have got done, but it's negative. So he was doing it with a full sense of what he was doing. They let him go.
Right. So as long as you're sober when you smack someone over the back of the head with a Fender Telecaster, then you'll probably get away with it. Yeah,
that's what in Germany.
Right. That's not a suggestion, by the way.
It's not a suggestion. It's just there's a warped sense of justice somewhere.
It certainly is. Yeah. Oh well.
So that was it, really.
Good. Well, that'll do, won't it?
It will do. I think that's adequate for this week for you to carve something out of that, don't you?
Probably, yeah. I'll see you next time then.
Okay, we'll do, mate. Take it easy.
Laters.
Bye.
Bye. Sideways was created by Graham Landy and Martin Pankhurst. If you want to read more about our work or sort through the extensive archive of past episodes, just visit grahamlandy-wellbeing.co.uk/sideways-podcast. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at Sideways Podcast, and you can email us if you have a question or if there's something you'd like us to cover. But most of all, we want to tell you how grateful we are that you come and listen, and we ask that if you've enjoyed what you've heard, that you spread the word. And we'll see you next week.